But what you've learned in the last 20 years of this work in Michigan that has changed your mind about what it is that kids need in America in the 21st century?
Senator, thank you for that question. And first of all, I look forward to correcting some of the record regarding Detroit. And I think it's really important, first of all, to put Detroit in context. In 1950, there were 1.8 million people living in the city of Detroit. Today, there's less than 700,000, 675,000 roughly. Anyone with any means in the city of Detroit has basically, with school-age students, has basically left the city. And the students... there today.
With respect, I'm not asking for a history of Detroit. What I'd like to know, what I asked about was the last 20 years of school reform that you've been so involved with in Michigan.
Yes, but you were referring specifically to the Detroit schools. And
right.
The reality today is that 8 out of 10 students in Detroit are living in poverty. Nobody accepts that the results in Detroit overall are acceptable. There's clearly room for a lot more improvement, but the reality is that more than half of the. I'm
sorry. I'm sensitive because I'm not going to get a second round of questions. What have you learned about the failures of the Detroit public schools and Detroit charter schools that has informed your decision making as the Secretary of Education? What went wrong there that's going to go right in cities all across America as a result of your philosophy about how we ought to move the country forward?
Actually, I believe that there's a lot that has gone right in Detroit and in Michigan with regard to charter schools. And the notion that there hasn't been accountability is just wrong. It's it's false news. It's not correct at all. The reality is that charter schools in Michigan have been accountable, fully accountable to their overseeing bodies and to the state since their history.
If that's true, why are there so many failing charter schools in Michigan?
122 charter schools have been closed since charter schools came into existence in Michigan. And the reality today is that students attending charter schools in the city of Detroit are getting 3 months on average more learning than their counterparts in the traditional public schools. The recent legislation that was passed now actually brings all schools in Detroit under accountability, including the traditional schools. Heretofore, there's never been a traditional public school that's been closed due to poor performance. And so finally, for the people of Detroit, there is accountability across the board. And I'm pleased and thankful that that's the case.
I'm out of time, and I apologize.